Hello and welcome back to the OTB channel. Over a year ago I had a look at Void Linux and I did actually run it for about 6 months. And I thought it was time to give it a try. I was impressed the first time, but the second time I'm even more impressed. I really believe it's a distro that any experienced Linux user should give a shot. See you after the intro. Right, welcome back. So I hinted on Sunday on the live video I did that I was going to review Void, and I thought today's the day. And it's quite a long one, this, so be warned. And it's been quite difficult because I've had to swap and change on some of the things that I've looked at. But what I will say is I'm running 3 different distros at the moment. I'm running Arch, I'm running Slackware, and I'm running Void. I like all of them equally for different reasons. I like Arch because it's bleeding edge, it's quick, it's easy to grab in packages, and as my media workstation here, it suits the purpose that I've put it to. I like Slackware because it's solid and stable, and I don't need it to be a media workstation. I just need it to be a laptop that I can use for general purpose use. But I've also put my T420 laptop to use with Void Linux. Now, I installed Void Linux over a year ago, and I kept it on an SSD, and I kept returning to it. And there was a few paper cuts, but there was something about it that just, I don't know, I loved. I like distros that aren't forks. I like distros that are something original. They are their own thing in themselves, and Void is certainly that. And so I thought I'd give it a try about 2 months ago or so. And I've been running it constantly. My T420 is a ThinkPad that I use quite often, and I've had 0 issues. There's been no paper cuts. It's improved beyond measure. And I've started exploring the source tree, which is like the FreeBSD ports that you can also use, as well as the very fast package manager. So today, without further ado, I'm going to install it on a VirtualBox. I'm going to show a basic installation process, and then I'm going to go into how the ports tree works. I don't think they're called a ports tree, just the source tree works, and how it can make life really simple if you want to modify a package or patch a package. And in fact, one of the things that I'm going to be doing is showing you how I patch libxft in DWM for color emojis, but how I do it really simply using Void tools. So without further ado, let's go and have a look at the install. Right, so here we are at the main screen of the XFCE desktop. Now, the point of this video isn't to do a review of Void's version of XFCE, not by any means, because it's a vanilla XFCE. Void is one of those distros that is all about creating your own look and feel. So it'll start you off with a base and you make it your own. But from here, all I want to do is to show you how easy it is to install, and then to talk a little bit about package management. So let's find the XFCE terminal here, because what you will not find on Void is a graphical installer. In this sense, it's very much like Slackware. It's going to be an ncurses installer that we're using. So first of all, I need to log in as root, and I believe the password is just Void Linux. And there we are. We have the root hash symbol. And then we run the command void-installer. And here we are, we're straight into the ncurses installer. So little welcome screen, let's hit hit OK and continue. So set the system keyboard. So we need to find UK here. And it really reminds me of Slackware installer. It really does. I'm just wondering where UK is. I bet it's right at the end. I can't remember from when I last set it, but we'll find it in a second. There's the UAs, US. There we are, UK. Set up the network. Okay, so it's spotted I'm on a virtual machine, so I'm obviously wired. Do you want to use DHCP? Yes. Network is working properly. What I would say is that when I was setting this up on my laptop, for some reason, although it could see the wireless network card, it couldn't set it up during the installer. But it wasn't an issue because once everything had installed and I installed it off the ISO, everything was fine. So set the source installation. We're going to do a local install. If you are installing the XFCE desktop and not just the base system, they advise that you use local and you just install packages from the ISO itself. So we're going to go with that. Set a system host name, so void VM, why not? Set the system locale, so it's scanning locales, and we're looking for ENGB, there we are, Great Britain. Set your time zone, so I'm looking here at Europe and London. Set the system root password, okay. And again. And set up a user account. So let's do that. It defaults to void, but I want a user account called OTB. And what do I want my username to be? Again, OTB. And set a password for OTB. And I'm setting it the same as the root password. Now it asks for group membership. What do we want to be a member of? So let's just have a look down here. I'm going to select disk. I'm just hitting the space bar here. LP for printers. Video we're already a member of. CD-ROM, optical, mail, storage. I think I'd like to be a member of that. Scanner, I'm not bothered here. Input, no, don't think so. Users, yeah, why not? I'm looking at what else here I may want to be a member of. There's nothing jumping out that's going to be absolutely essential. I was looking for a wheel group, to be honest, but I don't think there is one. Oh, yes, there is. It's up there and we're already a member, so I'm just going to hit OK. Set disk to install bootloader. There is only one disk. It's SDA here, so I'm just on a standard BIOS install. I'll hit OK. Use a graphical terminal for the bootloader. Let's set yes. Partition the disks. OK, so there is only one disk. And what do I want to use? Do I want to use CF disk or F disk? I don't use F disk. I don't really remember how to do it. It's so long. I'm going to just use dev SDA. I'm going to set up a DOS partition. I'm not going to bother with swap. I'm just going to set one big partition here, 32 gig. I'm going to make that a primary. What type am I going to make it? I'm going to make it a Linux type. And I also want to make it bootable. So we need to just write that information now. Am I sure? Yes, I am. Okay, so we should be all good now. So let's quit. Configure file systems and mount points. Okay, so we only have one partition we've created. So what do I want to make that? I want to make it ext4, please. And what about the mount point? Well, I've only got one partition, so / for root. Do you want to create a new file system on it? Yes, please. Okay. And we're done. Right, so then we move down to install. And let's just hit OK. It tells us that it's going to create an ext4 partition there. Do I want to continue? Yes, I do. So really simple, not a lot to it. It's an ncurses installation, just like Slackware. Nothing to be afraid of. And what you will notice on this is it's very, very fast. I mean, progress is already at 45%, and it just ramps through the installation. You almost feel, I remember when I first did this, oh, was there an error there? Is something wrong? But no, it's going to finish in a second. Right, and that literally took about 2 minutes, and we're ready to reboot. So we'll come back once I've removed the ISO and rebooted the system. Right, so I rebooted, removed the ISO, and I've booted into Void, an installed version of Void in my virtual machine. And you can see here we've got the LXDM login screen, I believe it is. It's pretty plain by default, but you can customize it as you want. So let's just log in. I'll get the focus here, OTB, and wait for our XFCE desktop to launch. Now, I have tried this first before I'm showing it to you, just to make sure that the install worked, and it did. And I needed to change it over to a UK keyboard, and I ran the updates just to make sure everything was working. And it's all working absolutely fine. It's a pretty basic installation here. What you will find is that out of the box, you don't have Vim, you don't have Nano, you don't have XR&R, you don't have wget, you don't have absolutely anything. So for those people who prefer a desktop environment that's set up ready for use, as soon as you finish the installation, Void Linux probably isn't for you. But for those people who like to build their own environment and just want a good solid foundation to work from, Void could well be it. What I would suggest the first time that you go in is open the web browser and go to the Void Linux webpage and to look up the documentation. If you go to the documentation, there we go, there's the link. You will find that it firstly gives you, let's find the packages. It tells you all about the XBPS package manager, and XBPS isn't one package, it's a range of packages. You've got the query tool, you've got the install tool, the remove tool, and so on and so forth. And if you want to know how to work with each one, click on the link to it, it'll bring up the man page. So if you're not comfortable with man pages, again, you may well struggle with this. But just to give you an idea, let me open up the XFCE terminal. What you should do as soon as you boot into your new system is to do a sudo, and sudo is set up by default, xbps install -su. S synchronizes the repositories, U does an upgrade, and run that. It asks me for my password, and off it goes. Now you'll notice there's a few repositories here. There's actually 4 repositories. There's what's called current, there's a multi-lib, there's a non-free, and there's a multi-lib non-free as well. They do not come installed out of the box. In fact, if you go down to have a look at the package documentation, XBPS, we'll find it here. There's a section on repositories, and as it says there's the current repository, but you'll also find void repo non-free, void repo multi-lib, and void repo multi-lib non-free. And if I was to perhaps want to install the void repo non-free, all I would do is, let's just clean this up a bit, is I would do sudo xbps install, synchronize the repositories, and then install void repo non-free. I've gone through and I've installed all 3 of the additional repositories. So, I mean, if I did that, you can see it's already installed. So, it's pretty easy, and you can install any package like this. So, if I was to install, let's think of something here. Let's have a go at installing Alacrity. So, sudo xbps install Alacrity. I'm assuming that's in the repos. Yes, it is. Job done. It's really quick. For those of you who like a graphical package manager, Void doesn't come with one out of the box, but there is one called Octo XBPS. And you would simply install that from your package manager. So sudo xbps -install -S Octo XBPS. And I think this is very much like the, is it Octopi that they have in Manjaro for the Qt desktops? And you search for your packages in here and just install them. So if I was to search for, I don't know, let's have a look. Let's see if we can find Genie. There's Genie. Click on it. Install. Hit the tick. Confirm. Enter your password. Off it goes. And it's installed. So we should actually find that now. I'm presuming in development. And there it is. Genie's installed. So if you prefer something like this, you know, a graphical package manager, that's great. So let's just clean up this again. Now this web page and documentation gives you a good start with Void. They also have a very active Reddit subgroup. Do they call it groups? Go on to Reddit. That's where the main support forum is, such as it is. And I've been on it a few times, and they're pretty good at, you know, answering questions. And they've always answered mine, and I've not had any problems. One of the things that you may find a little bit different with this is if you've been used to a System D system and you've been using systemctl, etc., to start and stop packages, you won't find that on here because this is running Runit. I'm just trying to find out here. Here we are. Services and daemons. It works in a slightly different way. Now, I'm not too bothered about what init system I run. I mean, I run Arch, which is System D. I run Slackware, which is variant of System 5, essentially. And of course, I'm running Void, which is Runit. What I would say to you is read through the pages here, and it tells you, you know, how to manage your services, SV up, SV down, SV restart, you know, whatever it is. So if I was to have a look at, say, use the status one, if I did sudo SV status, oops, helps if I can spell as normal, SSHD, which I believe is a service that should be running, and yes, it is. It gives me the PID number. So if I wanted to stop that, I would just do sudo SV down SSHD or sudo SV restart SSHD. So dead simple. If you want to enable a service, it's just as simple. I'm just going to move down from where are we here? Yeah. The thing to do is to look into the var services directory. So let me just CD to that. Right. And let's have a look there. What you see in the var service directory are all the different services that are set to start on login. If I just do an ls-la, You will, however, see that they are all symbolic links. And they are symbolic links to services that are sitting in the etc SV directory. So let's go to the etc SV directory and have a look at all the services that we've got there. And they are all the services that we could have starting up on boot. If you want a service to start up on boot and it's not currently doing so, well, what you'd do is you'd simply go to the etc SV directory and you would create a symbolic link in the var service directory from one of these. It shows you how to do it here anyway. So work your way through this. I'm not going to go through it in any detail. This is just a quick look, but this will get you started. Now, I haven't found a huge need to go outside of Void Linux's repositories. They've had the vast majority of things in that I required. But I have wanted to do a few tweaks. And this is where Void is quite interesting, because it has the facility to download what is very much like a ports tree, like a FreeBSD ports tree, of a whole range of packages that you can install from source as well. And it makes it really easy to do that. It's good for installing packages that you won't find in the repos, and you won't find everything in the repos. Packages that Void class as restricted or non-free, you're unlikely to find in the main repos, but you will find it in their source tree, and so you can use it to do that. It's also quite useful if you want to patch or modify one of your existing packages. So on that basis, let's have a look at what this is all about. So what you should see now is you should see the GitHub page of Void packages. And this is where you get started if you're interested in installing more than just the packages that are in the repos. And what you do to start off with, you'll need to do a git clone of this particular repo. So you do a git clone void packages.git. Now, I've already done it, and I have to say it's a pretty large download, but I'm going to cd into void packages. He says, but I'm not actually in my home directory, so that would really help. Okay, so cd into void packages. And the repo that you downloaded contains a whole range of things. One of the things that it does contain is a script called xbps-src, which helps you to basically compile the source packages. And you've also got a directory called src packages. And if I move into src packages, what have I spelt wrong there? There we go. That's it. I've done it completely wrong. There we are, packages. And I do a ls. You've got folders for a whole range of packages there. In fact, if I just did an ls and I piped it through, right, for some reason it's not picking up the English keyboard again. Let me just see if I can sort that out. I don't quite know why that is. Let me have a look. Keyboard layout. I sometimes find this with XFCE. Right. That's interesting. Let me just add. And let me add English, UK. And get rid of the American one and close it. Right, this should do it. So if I was to do an ls and I had a look at just how many lines we've got in there. Let's have a look. 12,400 directories. If we were to move into, I don't know, any directory, let's think there must be a D menu in here. CD D menu, I would imagine. Yes, there is. And I look inside. You're not going to find a huge amount there. What you are going to find is a template file. And if I was to cat the template file, essentially, let's just make this a bit bigger, you will see that this is essentially a build script. It tells XBPS-SRC where to download the package from, etc., etc. So, okay, so it's build scripts a little bit like Slackware in a way, and all you have to do in order to install a package here is issue a couple of really straightforward commands. What you need to do, though, to start off with, and let's just CD back out to the root directory of this, and again, there we are, into void packages, you need to install a bootstrap package, or a range of packages to do with bootstrap. And if you go through here, it does tell you what you need to do. You need to run the XBPS bootstrap package, and you need to install the binary bootstrap. So let's do that now. So // remember this is a script we're running, and we're going to install binary bootstrap. And I don't know how I've hit caps lock there, but I clearly have. So let's knock that off. I should probably get rid of these mistakes, but I just leave them in. What the heck? So XBPS SLC binary bootstrap. There it goes. It's downloading and installing all the necessary packages that I need to install. And there's quite a few development packages there, as you can see. So let's just get that done. And it shouldn't take long. Like I say, it's pretty quick. And there we are. We're all done. We're now in a position to actually be able to build one of the packages in this source tree. And in order to do that, if you go back to the website here, you run that script again, but with the word PKG before the package name. So we looked at D menu before, so let's do XBPS, package, PKG, D menu. I'm using D menu here because we know how quick that is to actually compile. Off it goes, it does what it needs to do. It checks that we've got all the relevant packages that we need to do this. And you can see there that it's installing dependencies as well as D menu, which is great. So it's doing it automatically for us. What it will do is it will, if we've already got a compiled package of one of the dependencies, it will use that. But otherwise, it will go off and grab it from our remote repo. And if it isn't in the remote repo, it will compile it from this source tree. Anyway, we're all done. So how do we go about installing this? Well, interestingly enough, let's go back to the structure of this particular repository. You will see there that there is a directory called host directory. And if I do an ls host directory, there is also a directory within that called bin packages. And you can see that there is a package there called dmenu. So it's compiled the package and it's put it in this host directory bin packages folder, which is essentially a sub-repository. If I wanted to install that now, all I would do is I would use the standard XBPS install. In fact, I don't need the S for this, so just the standard XBPS install. And what I want to do is I want to point XBPS install to this directory, host directory bin packages. So I'm just going to put in host directory, bin packages, and what's the name of it? It's dmenu. Oh, no, don't need that. Dmenu. And as far as I'm aware, that should now install that package. Asks for the password. Do I want to install dmenu? Yes, I do, please. Job done. It's installed. It's also installed libxft there, I see. So, okay, all good. So dead easy to install packages that perhaps aren't in the repos, but you can install them from the source tree. Now, there are a couple of other uses. Well, there are many uses for this sort of system. When I was running this on my main system, and I ran it for about 6 months, as, you know, a second system, one of the things that I found was that I was struggling with OBS doing hardware rendering. And I couldn't figure out why. And I went onto the subreddit, and they actually let me know that one of the problems I was having was because the Intel media driver didn't come from the repos with all the relevant non-free options compiled in. So they advised me to do a git clone of the void packages and compile a version of the Intel media driver with the non-free options that I needed. This was really easy. So I did as I did before, you know, I ran the bootstrap package, and then all I needed to do was again run xbps src, and then the word show options for Intel media driver. And I can already see the following build options are set. Non-free is off. Now, in order to enable this, I simply built it as I built before. And I'm following along here because I can't remember the exact syntax, but I essentially followed along here. And what I did was I enabled the option. So that's just a -0, non-free. Now I already had this driver installed, so I did a force Intel media driver, and I built it. And it takes quite a long time to build, but once it had built, it was again put in this local repository that's within that repo, and suddenly I could do hardware rendering in OBS. Now, this is a virtual machine, so the Intel media driver's neither here nor there, so I'm not going to bother doing that. What I am going to do, though, just to let you know how to do this, because I've had a few requests, is how to use these source packages to patch a particular package. Now, you know I've been playing around with Slackware, and you know how I use DWM, and I like color emojis, but essentially, in order to install color emojis in DWM, you have to have a patch version of libxft. So I wondered how to do this in Void, and I went onto the subreddit, and I asked a few questions, and someone gave me a method, and it's really simple. The thing to do right from the start, if you want to do this, I mean, you can just do a standard configure, make, install, but I prefer to have an actual package. I basically just CD'd into libxft, and it won't actually do because I need to go into the source package first. There we go. CD'd into the source package's libxft folder. Okay. Then what I did is I created a separate directory, just mkdir, called patches. I then CD'd into patches, and I did a wget to pull down the patch. If you need to know the URL for that, go back to my Slackware video a few weeks ago, where I was essentially using the package build from the libxft-bgra package on Arch in the AUR, and I simply wgetted that ARL. And it's called one.patch. Okay, so if I was to cat... I've hit caps lock again. I don't know why I keep doing that today. So if I was to cat one.patch, you can see what I've essentially got here is a build script. Or this is the patch, rather. One.patch, I don't know. I'm going to change its name. So move change.patch. Missing destination after change.patch. What have I just done? I know what I've just done. Move one.patch, change.patch. I don't know, I'm not thinking properly today. Right, so I've now got something called change.patch in that directory. So let me cd out again into void packages. That's all I've done. I've just downloaded the libxft-bgra patch. I've put it in a patches directory. All I need to do from here now is to build libxft, nothing else. And it will automatically, because there is a patches directory, apply that patch. So let's have a go at doing that. Doing these things live, you always hope nothing's going to go wrong. But hey, let's see how we go. So dot xbps src. Okay, so we want to build this package now. So it's pkg. Okay, and we want to do a -f to force, because of course it's already on the system, this. And if I just do libxft, I know it's got a capital X there. So let me just check that I've got everything right here. And I think I have. Let's hit enter. And it's doing what it needs to do. It's patching and it's compiling libxft. So let's just wait for it to finish that, and we'll install it as we installed before. And then I will take you to my laptop. Rather than having to configure a DWM in here, I'll show you what it's actually done. Right, so it's created the package. I don't know if it'll let me go all the way back here, but let me see if I can, if I've got enough scroll back here. I want to see, right at the beginning of this process, did it actually go to the patch directory? Yes, it did. There we have it. libxft patching. It's applying the change patch. Okay, well, that's great. So what we now have, if I do a list and I go into host directory, bin packages, you will now see that I now have a libxft package, and it's automatically compiled the development package as well, which is really great. So I now can simply do the sudo xbps install, and I would use the F option here to make sure that, because I've already got a package installed, I want to overwrite that. But the first thing I need to do is to tell it that it needs to point at my directory here, and that is host directory, bin packages. So bin packages, -F, so force an install and overwrite the existing package that's there, and libxft. So keep your fingers crossed. Password. What have I spelt wrong here? Because this is bound to be me. Host directory bin packages not found in development pool. Right. So what did I do there? I know what I've done there. I've messed up. I've put an additional space there. So let's try that again. Do I want to continue? Yes, I do. All done. I also want to do the development one. And I've spelled that wrong, so it's not going to find it. Devel. Do I want to continue? Yes, I do. And off it goes, and it installs that along with a load of additional ones. Now, I can absolutely confirm that this works. What I do want to make sure of, though, is that that package that I've just patched isn't overwritten the next time libxft is patched. And there's an easy way to do this. I'm now going to do sudo xbps, and the command I'm going to use is pkgdb -m repo lock libxft. That will ensure that that patched version of libxft that I've just installed will not get overwritten. Okay, so a little bit all over the place as I'm doing this in real time. What I'm going to do now, I've done this all on my laptop. I'm going to fire that up, and I'm going to show you what the ultimate result is, and prove that I can indeed run colour emojis by doing this. So, just moving over to real hardware, I've just done a few videos of my DWM on my T420 with simple screen recorder, so I'm talking over it, and you can see the emojis are up there, and it's my solarized dark theme. So it looks good, no problem, it works a treat. Let's have a look at some of the other window managers I've got. And now you see my left WM. I did a cargo install to get this on Void, and that's using the emojis as well. Let's have a look at Spectre WM. So finally, here's Spectre WM, not using emojis, just using the awesome icons that I've coloured. Right, let's have a chat. Right, so that's Void Linux. I'm loving it. I really, really like this distro, and I would recommend that everybody who's got a bit of experience give it a try. I wouldn't say it's for new users because you have to build it up by scratch. There's very little installed by default, but I like that. I like a blank canvas, and if you're used to using Arch and installing Arch the Arch way, it will be home from home for you. Give it a try. Right, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. It's been long. I know it's been long and it's been a bit rambly, so we'll see how this goes. But as usual, I'd like to say, please subscribe if you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to support the channel, please go to patreon.com/OldTechBloke and just bringing my Patreon screen over. I'd like to thank Robert, Aristotelis, Mike, Ty, Forrest, Patrick, Glenn, Magnus, Darren, Mislav, Chris, and our newest member, James Mason, as in the actor. Thanks, James. Really appreciate it, mate. And thanks all of you guys for supporting the channel. We've had 4 new patrons in the last few weeks, so we're starting to slowly build up again. So, guys, that's it for today, and I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.